Well, it took a while, but I finally got the parts needed to finish the lower unit of my 1958 Johnson 10 horse. So I'm going to split this into two videos, I think. One video will be the lower removal and the reseal. The next video will be the water pump and reinstall. So here's the lower unit, pretty standard. In 1957, they were a little different. I believe the back was a little bit bigger and there was a bolt through here, and that goes back for a few more years. Or 1958 and above, they changed it to this design. So if you have a different design, you're going to have an extra bolt, but for the most part, this is kind of going to apply to you. Alright, let's start by getting the propeller off. Now when you get to the shift rod connector, which is behind this little plates, under the camera. Looks like the gasket kind of fell apart on us. No big deal. Now we got the shift rod connector. I'll go ahead and pull out the bottom screw. There's the little lock washer. And grab that. And now pull out the 4 bolts from the lower. Now it should slide right out. That was my 2x4 holding it up, Phil. Okay, the lower unit is on the holding fixture. I'm going to pull out the vent screws. The vent screw on the top. We're draining the fluid here, by the way. And one on the bottom. Alright, we got some water. And that's about it. Alright, let's get this water pump off. There's a pin right here. It's got to come out. It's the water pump keyway, if you will. Now get our wear plate off. And it looks pretty good under there so far. Alright, let's get it flipped around. I'm going to do this side first just because I'm going to have to push on it. I don't want it to pop out before it comes out, you know what I mean? Now let's get these off. Now I'll just give it a little tap. She breaks loose. So we do have some rust, mainly on the shifter so far that I can tell. Pop these gears out of here. Might as well pull the shifter out from here. Now we can get to this gear, or drive shaft. Drive shaft, or gear rather. Drive shaft will come right out now. And doesn't look in too bad a shape. Let's get these gears apart. Really see what we're dealing with. So in a couple more years, I think we would have had a problem. But for the most part, the rust just seems minimal at best. Looks like it's mainly in where the clutch dog would sit, but the gear faces, they're okay. I have an old dirty gallon of carb cleaner here. There's our basket. Don't know how long that's been in there, but that's kind of funny. Alright, I'm going to let that soak overnight. Probably. Oh, look at this thing actually. This is a little wiper washer that goes on the end of a steering rod or a tilt tube, so you can really pack grease in there. It's probably been in there for 6 months. I wanted to clean it, forgot about it apparently. It's coming back to me now, of course, but this thing was disgusting. Now, it's pretty nice. Alright, enough of that. And I forgot to put in the pinion. So I'm going to try to remember the shape this thing came out of. That way when I put it back in, I can kind of line it up better. You know what I mean? Usually this is going to stay in the engine. Every now and then it comes out. Take that off too. The big side is down. The bigger, see what I mean? Little lip, bigger O-ring. That goes in the water pump. Pretty straightforward. Alright, got two little screws here on the water pump with two nuts on them, so they protrude down about that far. See? That will give us a makeshift spanner wrench so that we can get this on here and spin this off. Now, I showed this tool in another video. This is the vintage seal remover. I'm going to give it a try first to pull that seal out. It should work fine, but we'll see how it goes. Never fails, right? While I'm here, I might as well pull the propeller shaft seal out. It's a little harder to use that tool with this because it fits inside of my pipe. And this has a slight little taper to it. So if I try to use it, all it does is get stuck in there. So I'm going to use a slightly different tool for this. This tool is a little more modern, still available, yet a lot more expensive. Okay, what I'm putting together is the modern Johnson Evinrude OMC BRP seal puller. It's a little harder to use on these older seals. Setting it up is a nightmare. I have plenty of videos showing how to do it exactly. So if you search, or if I figure out a way to link them, I will do that. I didn't use it on the other seal because it's a nightmare to set up, like I said. But it's quite simple on one of these, so no problem doing it here. Now when it was in the vise, it wasn't crimping on the vise. The jaws were right to these little end points. So if you're going to be doing that, don't crimp down on it. Alright, while I wait, I'm going to go ahead and clean off the gasket surface here. Rip off the old, clean it, you know, the usual. Alright, now I'm going to run a tap down the water pump holes. This is their number 1024. This will make sure that screws don't have any problems or breakage or anything going in, and we have nice new threads to work with. Alright, let's get this thing flipped around. Start working underneath. Alright, we still have some of our rubber here. Let's get that off. And not much to do here. So let's go to town with the wire wheel. So these 6 holes are 1/4 20. Pretty common throughout these outboards. Same thing. Tap down them. Till you get close. Take it back out. And 9 times out of 10, there is a stuck washer inside here. As long as we're cleaning up hardware. Alright, now we'll start swapping new parts into this thing. So we got to get this bushing out. Pretty easy to do, but we need tools. But we always need tools, so that's nothing new. Alright, what I have here is the bushing remover tool, as well as the bushing installer tool. That's all we do. It's flipped upside down. Peer down inside and look for our shift rod hole. Put it in there. And out it comes. And the real problem with this tool is how it gets stuck like that. Just hammer it back through. Now there's an O-ring in there we gotta get out. This is, of course, the shift rod O-ring. I just kind of gotta clean out that hole a bit. This is just carb cleaner. Just going to spray some on the rag and then get the rag back in there. Paper towel, rather. Probably shouldn't have sprayed it all over the lower there. Okay, I got the wire wheel out, so we're going to clean up our shift rod first. Now I'll do the bushing. So the top is kind of clean from where I did the cleaning of the top of the housing here. The bottom is pretty nasty, but you can also, the camera focuses, see a slight taper at the top here. See the little discolored? Hard to see, but that's the taper. So that'll go down and in. But I'll clean up the sides and the end of this just to make sure it, looks good. Alright, here is our Gearcase, O-ring seal kit, if you will. So to save time, I'm going to show you this once. This is our spaghetti seal. This is probably our drive shaft seal, followed by a propeller shaft seal. This is the shift rod O-ring. This is the bearing plate gasket. These are two new seals for the drain screws. This is the bearing head O-ring and our shift rod O-ring. I have my Evinrude triple guard grease here. I'm going to cake up the shift rod O-ring with it. Install it back into a little hole there. Now, way back when, they didn't have the Evinrude gasket sealing compound like they do now. So our manual will not mention this stuff, nor will it mention to coat this bushing in it. However, newer engines, the exact same lower unit design, do say to coat it. So, since it won't hurt anything, I'm going to coat it in the gasket sealing compound. This is probably optional, considering, like I said, they didn't have it originally. They do now, though. So I coated the outside. If there's a problem there, should help seal it up, but also it'll also keep it unfrozen inside of there, so when it times to come back out again, it'll be there. So there is the top of our rod. All I'm going to be doing is smacking it with my hammer. And it is installed. Alright, I'm going to put some triple guard grease on the top of the shift rod. Make sure it doesn't rip up our O-ring when we put it in. drive rod, I'm just going to slide back on down into this little hole, kind of rotating as I go. And this little indent here rides up against where this little hole was, so just in case you're curious. Alright, I'm over here at my arbor press. I have the seal for the bearing head here. The propeller shaft seal, I don't know what you'd call this thing. But anyway, it's pretty easy to tell which seal is which, because in this kit they're both exactly the same. Now, that's not usually the case, at least not for what I work on. So, just kind of lucked out this way with this one. So again, the manual doesn't say anything about this, but newer manuals do. They say to coat the inside with triple cart grease, so I don't see it hurting anything, so I'll be doing that. Also, put the outside of the seal in the sealing compound. I think that helped a little too. Alright, got a little press here. See that inner little lip thing? When the old one we pulled out, that was down, so we're going to match that here. I have a special seal installer tool, which is a 11-16, should I need it. Alright, that one's in. And while I'm here, might as well do this one. Same thing, put some grease in the O-ring, or the inner seal, rather. Sealing compound to the outside. Now, I used my arbor press here to press in the seals. If you don't have an arbor press, nor do you want to buy an arbor press, you don't necessarily need it. You could use a vise and just kind of use the vise to clamp it together, or you could just straight up use a hammer in that socket and hammer it in. Whatever you choose to do, it usually works fine, so use what you have. So I propped the drive shaft up using the old A water pump and some videos in a note crate, which is holding it in up top right here, just in case you're wondering what I just did. So with that on, let's slide on our pinion here. I did mess with the key in there, so shouldn't really have any issues with that. Perfect. And the drive shaft is kind of holding itself in. Alright, let's put this stuff back together. So we have the forward bearing, which is here, goes on the back, the front, the propeller shaft. Clutch dog looks quite nice. There is a little nick right there, so that's going to be our reverse gear, because why not? We need a thrust washer. We have some rust going on. The rust is down. Or at least it's going forward now. Pushing goes into the reverse gear. Use the thrust washer, put shiny side up. Now it may get stuck right there. It usually will. Reason being, I have no idea. Just kind of happens on some. I think it's where the propeller pin goes in. Kind of causes some problems. So you just got to get something to push it down. You could use the bearing head itself, but I prefer not to. This looks like the water pump plate here is a good fit. Types. So don't go crazy with this. If you need to go crazy to get it in, there's probably a problem and you need to check something. So what I think it is this hole probably elongates or something happens, because I think if we were to grind or smooth this out a little bit, that bushing usually slides right over. But I find hitting it in usually works. I'm going to put some sealant on our new O-ring. By sealant I mean triple guard grease. Every O-ring from 70s motors up, this is called for. So it's getting it too. Couldn't hurt, don't think. Slide this back on. Might also need a little bit of persuasion. Not a big deal if it does. Also, you should make no dry assemblies. Everything should be coated in oil as you put it together. So keep that in mind. Not that I did it, but I should have, and I planned to up until this point where I remembered I didn't. Please keep that in mind. Okay, we have a little pin right here, and we have a little hole right there. We also have a little downspout that goes down inside of this little crevice. So basically, that hole, that pin, need to become one. And that little crevice back there is much easier to align, by the way. Alright, I'm going to put a marquee opposite end of that hole. That way I know where I'm going. So that little mark I just made should be up. Well, I think it's in. And I forgot to do something. Back out it comes. Okay, back in these days, OMC, Johnson Evinrude, they had a sealant called, well, Sealant 1000 or 1000 sealant. That is no longer available, long discontinued, but you can buy it in another version of it, I believe by Boat Armor or Marine Armor sells it. Whether it's the same stuff, I have no idea, but Evinrude later on, I believe in the late 70s, early 80s, came out with this stuff, 847, aka Gasket Sealing Compound M, or Sealing Compound M. This replaces the Sealant 1000, so this is a good substitute for it because it is what OMC said replaced it. So we need to put some down here to seal this thing up. And this stuff is nasty, so fair warning. That should do it. Let's put in our cradle shifter. which is this guy. And keep it about neutral. Let's get our O-ring off of here, and our seal out of here. So occasionally people ask me, why do you clean up your hardware? Which one do you think is going to go in better? The nicely cleaned one, or this one that's full of gunk? That's why I do it. But seriously, clean up your hardware, because this is a joke putting this back in. Okay, now it is time for our spaghetti seal. So you want to let it overhang about 1/32 of an inch, so just a hair. Put it in, trace it around. Make sure it's laying in there okay. It's not. Yeah, I'd say that's a metric hair. Yeah, it looks good. Let's give her a little cut. I think that'll fly. Okay, let's get our gasket sealant M back out. Or sealant 100 or 1000, whatever it is. It's going to leak out if I just set it down. How do we get longer? What's going on here? Oh, moved. Now I'll put some more of this stuff. Probably don't need much up here, but around here we'll put some more down. And we'll slide this on. I suppose I could spread this out a little. Alright, spaghetti seal, don't move now. Well, looks like that went right on. Now, this gasket sealing compound also uses an anti-seize, so each one of these screws just needs to get a little brush of it on there. Hopefully in another 50 years when somebody takes this thing apart, they'll be like, oh, thanks last guy. And I'll be like, you're welcome. Now you do have a little gap here, which is normal, but what you don't want to do is have to use those to force the whole thing together. You need it to pull it down a little, but if you have to apply a bunch of force to really suck it down, you probably have an alignment problem inside of there. Also, you're going to want to alternate screws, just like you would be putting on a cylinder head or a tire. A tire, not a tire. Alright, so the screws are snug and that thing looks like it's pretty well sealed. So I'll go ahead and tighten them down the rest of the way. Alright, our shift pin needs a new O-ring. And much like the rest of them, while I'm here, I'm going to put some triple guard grease on it. So our shift pin is right here. Usually you can go in there with an awl or something, make sure it's going to line. It looks like it's a perfect spot for it. Got lucky on that one. I also have some triple guard grease on the threads of this. In theory that will help seal it and prevent it from seizing itself in there in the future. Alright, should do it. Okay, our Gearcase vent screws needs new seals. So we'll put those on. And we'll screw the bottom one into our Gearcase. Just snug, not too tight. So one of the outboards I picked up quite a while ago came with 2 bottles of this stuff, premium blend Gearcase lube. This is an actual OMC part. It is 174977 part number, I believe. Anywho, so recommended usage: Evener Johnson, all models 1972 and earlier. So this is what we'll be pouring in there. Now I just want to get some. What the heck? It is. I wonder it hasn't leaked. Gotta cut it. So I want to get some oil in there before those gears sit for too long. Alright, both sides of this gasket are coated in the gasket and sealing compound. I believe the hole goes on this side, but I am probably wrong. No, I'm probably right. Now, you probably don't need to coat it in the gasket and sealing compound, but I sure do. Probably not going to have a problem either way as long as your surfaces are nice and clean. So, probably don't need to worry about it, but if you have some, use it. Which you should have some anyway for any of your outboard repairs, because it's used everywhere. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it on the I'm going to put it on this, because there's no way I'm going to be able to line all that. I don't know if this will be much better, but good enough. Alright, let's slide this down over the drive shaft. And into its new hole, just like so. Well, that is it for this video, I think. I don't know how long it is, because I don't actually know until I'm done editing it on the Movie Maker there. But it's probably pretty long. You can check your work, too, by spinning the drive shaft, moving this up and down. Some engines have what's called a detent on the shift rod, so it kind of clicks. So it's like... This one doesn't have it, since it has it on the shift handle. So you just kind of got to guess where it is. But it's going forward and reverse just fine. It doesn't feel like it's having any spinning issues. So on all, I'd say this is okay. We could pressure check it if we wanted to. The problem is, don't have a water pump on yet, so I'll pressure adjust it later. So I let all the internal gears and everything sit in the carb cleaner overnight. That works great to get all, anything off of it. The problem is, I think that stuff really embeds itself into the metal, and I think it really gets everything clean. And those gears have been sitting, they should have been sitting in oil their whole life. So after they're cleaned, especially if you wire wheel or sandblast them or something, or media blast, they will have a tendency to flash rust on you very quickly. And anything past more than a day or two, they're gonna start getting pretty rusty pretty quick. So if you do that, clean them the way I did, finish this in one day. Don't let it sit around for a few days. And get oil in it as soon as you can. So, that's pretty much it. Alright everybody, see you next time. Oh yeah, water pump video. what's up next.